What did you make of what he was saying, the president was saying about making drug prices more affordable for folks and all of that? And obviously you guys pour a lot of money into research and development and just coming up with a drug. It can be years in the making. Drug comes out, but then we hear the eye-popping drug stores and people who are priced out of life-saving medicines. How do you balance that?
Yeah, and it is a balance. I think that's the problem, right? So according to Tufts, 10 years, $2.6 billion to bring a new drug to market. And think of the big unmet needs. We still have epidemic-like diseases like Alzheimer's that we just don't have a solution, and billions of dollars are being poured in to try to understand the disease, and yet they've all failed so far, right? And so we need to encourage that kind of investment. On the flip side, you see some really egregious stories about drug pricing that are simply wrong. And so what we've done at Allergan is we've kind of taken our own lead, and we passed a social contract where we said we are going to self-regulate our drug pricing, and we're going to be transparent about it. And so this year in 2017, our net price increases will be somewhere around 2.6%. And so we really are exercising self-restraint. We've seen other companies follow, not all of them, and other companies do their own thing, which is fine too. And so I think things are moving in the right direction, but there's still a couple bad actors out there, and we need to look at the mainstream industry that's innovating and investing billions and billions of dollars.
But do you think that the environment is not favorable for your industry coming together or mergers? I thought of what happened when Pfizer fell through under President Obama, but just recently Anthem and Cigna killing off a $54 billion merger, Aetna's deal for Humana. I could go on. Now, you've been making a number of smaller acquisitions, I guess in the last year, total $5–6 billion worth, very targeted, very calculated, right. But it doesn't get to the bigger issue of heft, right? So what do you do?
Yeah, look, this still, the innovation side of this business, the research-based pharmaceutical companies are still a fragmented industry. There are still economies of scale to be gained by M&A, and that will happen over the next year or years. But
it's no longer, it seems, big M&A, big mergers and acquisitions.
I'm not so, well, you saw.
I mean, that
right.
$5–6 billion is nothing to sneeze at, don't get me wrong, right. But it's not $160 billion.
But although you saw this morning, Carl Icahn moved into Bristol Myers.
Yeah, took a stake in the company.
We took a stake in Bristol Myers and then proclaimed that he thought it was a good takeover
well,
target.
he thought it also was a value play as well, so right. He could be rejiggering the math on these. Your company would benefit from that sort of value rejiggering as well. But there's so many questions unanswered with President Trump and what he wants to do. Do you feel that drug pricing has to be readdressed in this country, no matter what you're doing, to make the process more transparent, whatever? Do you think more has to be done? That maybe after the EpiPen stuff and stuff that's similarly followed, that it's just due for a big step back?
Yeah, I do think more needs to be done, but I think more needs to be done by the industry than by government. I think government taking over pricing, drugs, health care is the last thing we need in America. We don't do a good job when government takes over large parts of our business, particularly those. Are you
worried that's more likely under President Trump?
I don't think it's more likely under President Trump, but it may be 4 or 8 years down the road, something that if this issue isn't solved, that we're really looking at. And it won't just be drugs, it will be all of health care. And
what about the big macro picture for you? And you touched on in the beginning there that if tax rates go down to the degree the president says they will, whether it's 20% corporate rate, he wants 15%, we're told. Right. Whether it's a top rate of this that goes down to 33%, we're told it could be more like 35%, who knows? But that it will be simpler, cleaner tax code. Of course, we've heard that before. Right, but how likely is that? How does it change what you do, how you do it, and where you do it?
Yeah, I think the issue with tax reform is the devil's always in the details. And I think a simpler tax system is better for everybody, for individuals, for corporations. I think people want to know what the rules are, and then they like to play by the rules.
Right.
I think what we see today, even in the corporate tax system, is such a complicated, complex system where...
But do you factor into your planning lower taxes next year?
We don't.
You don't?
We do not.
So it's just a...
Yes.
A benefit if it happens.
Absolutely, and I think it's just premature. I'm not sure we see...
What if you don't see it, though?
Well, we're not factoring it in, so we don't...
But would you be disappointed that, in other words, a once-in-a-generation chance to address the tax code we don't end up doing?
I do, and I worry that there's so many initiatives on the table, repeal and replace, immigration, there's all sorts of different initiatives that are important or that are on the table that tax gets left behind or diluted. This is a perfect opportunity for the president and for Congress to simplify our tax code, to make it more competitive with the rest of the world, and to encourage American growth that then fuels growth for the rest of the world. So it really feels like the moment is now, and we should take advantage of it.
Now, you're a very low-key guy. You're not a loud guy, and that's a great quality to have. The president is not a low-key guy. He is quite a loud guy, and that engenders all this stuff you hear back and forth in the media. Leadership qualities, and when you look at that, how do you think he's doing? Is he hurting himself, helping himself? What do you think? Only a month in, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got a very different style than I do, and you know, he likes to be out front. I think he's doing a reasonably good job in that he's
reasonably good.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think he's done a great job of surrounding himself with some really talented people. So he gets an A for that. I think I go back to what I was saying before. As a leader, you tend to pick 2 or 3 things and you do them really well. You get some wins behind you, and then use the momentum
You like
of wins.
the team. It sounds like you don't necessarily
so I like
over him.
Right. I like the team. I have respect for our president. I always respect the office of the president. The question is he taking on too much?
Who do you respect more, his predecessor or him?
Well, it's too early to call, but
Not a gay on a weak moment.
Yeah, it's too early to call, but I'm rooting for President Trump, and I rooted for President Obama. We want America to be successful. We want to see great things happen here.
But if he kills off Obamacare, I don't know what he'll replace it with. How does that affect you?
Yeah, I'm not sure it has a huge effect on the drug industry because we never really saw a big benefit from the Affordable Care Act. The thing I worry about is we can't put 20 million Americans at risk. So we need to repeal
20 million who have insurance.
Who have it today. So we need to do it very thoughtfully.
But it would make it very difficult to get Vraylar or these bipolar and schizophrenic drugs, right? It would make it...
It may make it harder, it may make it easier. It depends what they replace it with. I think you have a HHS secretary and Dr. Tom Price, who is a physician, a surgeon, who really understands how healthcare is delivered to patients. And so, you know, with his voice there, you hope that they do it in a way that's very thoughtful to the patient and allows the physician to have more choice on how they want to treat their own patients.
All right. We'll see what happens. Brent Saunders, thank you very much. Good seeing you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I didn't realize you were so young, by the way. It annoys
It's all the
me.
Botox.
Yeah, it's all the Botox. The Allergan CEO.